All right, folks. So, very first one on this channel is actually a collector conversation. I've done that a lot on my sports card channel, but it's a little bit different in this one. But I wanted to have a little bit of fun. And here's someone that I haven't actually had the chance to speak to face. Well, digital face, but nonetheless, TimSalmonCollector. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to talk some AEW with you and kind of get into the collecting world of AEW wrestling cards.
Absolutely. And there's going to be a little bit of contrast. So, our conversation is going to be a little streamlined, and maybe we'll have like a part two and a follow up conversation down the road. We've actually got a character that we do collect in common, and I joined the club. I was out of the club and it made me sad, so I had to join. I'll talk about that in a minute. But let me just start off in broad strokes, and then we'll narrow it down a little bit. I've literally got a box of some Britt Baker cards here. You all know if you watch this channel that I got a bunch. I got a few of those. So, but we'll talk about some specific things. So let me start off here with the wrestling cards in general. And this has been something that's kind of interesting. Something I mentioned to you briefly before I hit record was that it is very different than when you compare it to sports cards. We both come from the world of sports cards. You collect Frank Thomas cards. You know, you got Tim Salmon in the name. The only Fish last name Angels outfielder that matters.
The
And
one.
I will die on that hill. I will die on that hill all day, every day. But the people in the sports card thing know what I'm talking about. But regardless, I will stand on that. So we understand the sports card side of it. There's a lot of things. There is some carryover, but there are some major differences. And one of the major differences is in the difference in comfort level with a lot of the collectors in terms of, I guess, the mid and higher end cards, we'll say. A high end sports card expenditure can get into these wacky numbers that, like, is not what a normal, it can be a car, it can be a house, it can be really expensive. In wrestling cards, it tends to be a little bit more controlled. It has gone a little wackier since WWE's license took off with Panini, and they started to have Roman Reigns black refract black prism one of ones for 40,000, and the Rock gold. I think it was the Rock one of one, and that one went for 125 or 126,000. But that's an anomaly. But
Yes.
even still, like, those numbers are way higher than we're used to in the past. That's a lot closer to like sports card type numbers. Your rank and file ones aren't quite so wacky though, and when we compare it to AEW, you'll see there's a big difference, a big drop off when you see the comparison of those ones. Certain characters are not going to get there no matter what you do. But I felt that the wrestling card folk, they look at it and they try to buy a lot of these things, and if you go past $100 or a couple $100, it's tough for a lot of those folks. So you can pretty much become a whale. And in AEW, it's exacerbated. It's actually very much. It's actually kind of funny because I almost feel bad because it's like in sports card world, this is like above average card price. But over here, it's like, yeah, I'm just hitting buy it nows and I'm just winning auctions left, right, and center. It's like I almost feel guilty. I got to be honest, a little bit in comparison.
So I personally feel like I am a king of a third world country when I am
Yes.
buying AEW cards because I have spent a crazy amount on Frank Thomas, Barry Sanders,
Mm-hmm.
even Tim Salmon, the rare stuff, like a
Yes.
Red Crusade, just really hard to find stuff I have spent a lot of money on. So when I brought that over to AEW and I was paying less for the hottest stars than I would
Mm-hmm.
a Tim Salmon Crusade, I thought this is doable. I can handle this amount of money being spent on AEW cards because I was not used to that coming from the baseball and football card world.
Absolutely. And that's where once I started getting into it a little bit more depth, it became actually increasingly funny to me from that. I think your analogy is spot on. In reality, it's kind of, hey, like I said, I almost feel bad about almost, but at the same time, it is kind of cool though. And I did crunch. I don't know about you. I won't speak for you. I do like from time to time to kind of crunch some numbers on some of the collections that I have, and I've been a player collector for the longest time. So I love kind of seeing progress. That to me is motivating. I like seeing, get stuff off the checklist and work my way through it. And I did kind of do a little bit of rough math, and what I realized as I started doing it is that I probably have about 85% of the Britt Baker stuff, and I can't even come close to that in any of the other player collections. There's just too many cards. It's been so getting in on the ground floor, so to speak, has made that a lot easier, obviously. But some of the stuff I actually think, and we'll touch on this in a couple of minutes. I think some of it is a little bit tougher because I just don't think enough of it is getting broken. So I'll get to the AW in a second, but just looking at the way that wrestling cards is, the first observation that I had is just, yeah, the dollars, unless you're talking like the super crazy high end, the handful of really crazy high end stuff, most of the dollars are much more controlled, especially if you compare it to sports card world, so to speak. It's been interesting. But then to your point, we get into AEW and all of a sudden you can become a king on a relatively reasonable, especially if you're not picking necessarily MJF, basically. If you
Right.
go down from there, even a step or two down from there, it gets a lot more reasonable a lot quicker. You can chase after the big cards and that has been really interesting.
So I will say I collect MJF.
Mhm.
He's just a polarizing person.
Yes.
He makes AEW for me, and then everybody else I think is below him in terms
Yeah.
of card value. So I definitely agree with what you're saying. I am also a Britt Baker fan, Anna Jay. I like Samoa Joe, but again, those prices just don't compare. And so, I was a big fan of the metal that came out for
Mhm.
AEW, and because I'm a 90s guy, metal has a strong feeling in my heart and I'm a big fan of it. So when I saw these PMGs, I thought, man, I am going to be just I'm going to search for this, the Britt Baker, the
Mhm.
MJF. I want the PMGs because in baseball and football, PMGs are a big thing.
Mhm.
And so when they finally came out and the Britt Baker, the prices were up there. I will say when they first came out,
Yes.
I was kind of surprised by the prices for the PMGs because they were on par with some of my Frank Thomas stuff, the mid level Frank Thomas stuff and the
Mhm.
higher end Tim Salmon. So I thought, okay, I can play ball with this. But then I realized, within a few months, 400 turned into 300, turned into 200, turned into 175, and I didn't know because I was fresh into AEW cards that the prices would be going down like so much. I didn't understand that because in the baseball card world that doesn't really happen. You don't see that so quickly from a 90s card.
Mhm.
Modern is different. Modern can have a similar effect if the player is doing well or not doing well. But I didn't really understand that AEW wrestling, it didn't have what you're talking about in that strong fan base of people buying the cards constantly and opening the product enough,
Mhm.
and the prices I just see go down and down. And one of the things that also happened to me was I thought I'll have time to pick up a lot of these cards, but people are not opening the product enough. So the photo variation that
Mhm.
I thought I had time to find just is not on eBay. It's not on ComC. It's not anywhere. So I'm looking like, am I missing it? I start double checking. Am I just not seeing it? Am I missing it? Are people buying it from under me and I didn't even know it? And the answer is no, it's just not available because people didn't open the product to get the card.
Mhm.
So the first photo variation I got was of Anna J. And after that, I've seen one more, and I haven't seen anything else. I can't find the Britt Baker. I don't even know what the picture is. And that's a red flag to me. So
Mhm.
I just I'm not familiar enough with AEW collecting to understand what is happening. So I'm really glad that you brought me on so we can talk more about it.
For sure. Well, I have good news for you. The majority of people don't know too much more about it because we basically are in uncharted waters. We're almost figuring it out because when Upper Deck got the license for it in 2021, and then we found ourselves with these large gaps in releases, it created, we're not used to this. Because even when WWE, so I'll use the comparison of the two just so that we're all as best as we can. It's not apples to apples for reasons we'll touch on in a minute. But the point is that these are the two wrestling companies, but you had two completely different approaches to the way the license was treated. Panini decided when they took it over from Topps, and then Topps got it back, and they're about to get it back all the way and momentarily, seemingly soon. Panini, though, has been releasing steadily They've been releasing different prisms, they've been releasing different selects. So if you're familiar with that from sports cards, you pretty much understand what you're looking for. You understand how that works. Upper Deck tried to do something initially. The first series came out too hot. The boxes were too expensive for the secondary market because it was a flagship product, and you're getting the autographs every 4 boxes in the first product, which hurt things because you're sitting there opening up these boxes and going like, where are the autographs? As well, they're 1 for 4 boxes. And the most recent flagship is basically 2 per case, give or take. So you're sitting there, and actually, I can tell you the autographs are really coming out very slowly. It's there's a lot of these little nuances that you don't understand, but most people don't because it was new. Every time Upper Deck was doing something, we were basically learning about. All right, so what do you guys do? It's not even whether you know the set or not. It's like, so what did you guys do this time? What wrinkle did you throw in there? And one thing that I think is a factor that really messes things up is that WWE has a really robust Legends checklist. So it allows them to fill out the checklist with potentially these folks that you may know. AEW has only been around for 5 or 6 years. You don't really have legends. You have Sting, you have Billy Gunn, you have a couple of guys who work there. You have Jake the Snake Roberts, if you really want to push your luck. They're there, but they're not AEW legends. Although Sting had a really good run. I think his run in AEW was very good. I think they did really well by him, and they were able to actually get pretty good use out of him. But he's known as a WCW guy. Like that was his legacy. Even his TNA run was a pretty good sustained run there while he was there. So he's known for these other things, but his run in AEW was very solid. And I think it concluded very well. But Sting is going to be known as Surfer Sting, Crow Sting, like he's WCW Sting. But he's in these sets, so he's a legend, so to speak. I just think it hurts that your checklist isn't as deep. So that's on the promotion. That I got to put at the feet of Tony Khan. Making stars is his job. He's the one who's got to do that. But then the release schedule being so all over the place and with big long gaps in between, well, that's Upper Deck's job. That's their side of the equation, and that hurt it as well. And to your point, the reason why I think the price did all that kind of thing that we don't necessarily expect is because the dollars are wide but very shallow. So basically, the first couple that come out are the people that are impatient. So basically, I'm sure some of those early PMG comps were me getting my copy, paying way more than it should. And then after that, then the money dries up. The next highest, the only thing that matters in an auction is not who the top bidder is, who's the second and who's the third, especially if there's going to be a couple more copies down the road. Because the first guy buys it for it, the second one pushes him up to it, but then all of a sudden the price comes down. How far down was the third? If the third high bidder is way down there, the second one is going to go for half of the first one or whatever it's going to be. And then the price will keep going down to the fourth or fifth person all the way down the chain. And that's basically what we experience. The true rarities are still there, rare, but the dollars aren't there. I've had negotiations where I laugh where somebody's like, well, I don't really have and this is on one of ones. It's like, well, I don't really have a comp for it. I said, well, it's a one of one. You shouldn't have a comp on it. But here is like, so say for example, Allure. Golden Treasure is a good example. So for Allure, Golden Treasure, it's like, well, there's no real comp for it. It's like, well, there was this one that sold. It's like, where'd you find that? That was the one I bought. I'm the comp. So it's a weird negotiation when you literally it's like, no, I'm the comp. I'm the guy.
Right.
So so after me, I don't know who's left, but like I'm the guy. So that's the closest. Apples to apple,
Well,
that's the closest you're gonna get.
so yes, I noticed. I am one of the impatient guys as well. So
Yes.
it pops out, and I'm thinking, oh man, I want this. Uh, I will pay. And because it's AEW prices, I'm thinking, not a big deal. I've paid more for Frank Thomas and Barry Sanders cards. Not a big deal. I'm having fun, so let's do it. But then you start to what you were saying, you start to notice, okay, the jambalaya is now going for $60 and the lenticular cards are now $25 where I paid, you know, 3 times that or whatever it is. And they're just, if you wait it out, you're going to get the card you want for $20, $15, $30. I will say, the autographs and um, any of the 101s and the PMGs still are not in that same boat. But everything else, if you just wait it out, you're essentially going to get a great deal on it, and you're not going to have to fight anybody for it.
Hmm. Yeah, it just comes down to like the true scarcities, I think, have a certain cachet. But And this is my first opportunity to do a little comparison. I'll have a little fun with this one because this is an enjoyable one. I was chatting with you just before we hit record that as kind of a side PC, I'll collect JC Jane and WWE. And the rationale for that is because I wanted to have, like, while I was looking for other Brit cards to find, because for a while, once you pick up the first couple, it kind of dries up. If you're looking for some of the tougher ones, you go stretches of time where you're just not save search, you're checking it, you're just not seeing anything. Like I got most of this stuff or all of it, and I'm waiting for the next thing to show up that I can pick up. Great. But in the meantime, let me find something to keep me entertained. And JC Jane I thought was a good choice because, well, she was doing some fun stuff on NXT. I was watching it a little bit as well. And she is now, this is where the comparison is going to get kind of interesting. And this is where AEW versus WWE in cards, only in cards. I don't want to compare products. Please don't come at me in the comments, but only in cards. Britt Baker is at near the top of the food chain for the females in AEW. Now, obviously, she's been away for a while and everything, but she's still very solid in terms of near the top of the food chain. But JC Jane's an interesting comp because she is like a mid-tier talent in the developmental system. She's someone that you're not necessarily looking at it even being in a champion. She's in all these stables. She's constantly on TV for NXT, but she's not a feature player. She's not in contention for the NXT Women's Championship. She may get a call up at some point, but she's been in developmental for a couple of years. She's good, but it's one of those things where now that NXT, I don't know if you've been keeping too much of an eye on it, but they just started stacking it with all this international talent, really good female wrestler. So all of a sudden she's even further down the depth chart. She's still getting TV time consistently. She's got her character down, but this would be a much lower tier. So the comparison between these two should be completely in two different galaxies. Enter the brand power of WWE. This is where it gets interesting. I was watching a sale, an auction, and I'll include an image to it somewhere just so you guys can see it on the screen afterwards. But there was a 2022 Prism WWE Black Finite or Black One of One, one of the Black One of Ones, and this was for JC Jane, and it went to auction, and that card sold for $1,170.
Wow.
With 25 bids, and that happened November the 15th. So at the time we're recording that was 10 days ago. Open auction, and it's in Terra Peak. It was paid for $1,170 for a mid-tier developmental talent that is whose claim to fame in that show is being featured on the developmental show, has won the tag team championship for the NXT, and that's it. That's the comp we're talking about. $1,170. 10 days ago. So this is recent. We're not talking 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So we're not talking prospecting. I'm trying to figure out where that works, how that fits. It's fascinating to me that I love the market for stuff like this. It fascinates me because I'm trying to get my head around it. And then as soon as I saw it, it made me laugh. I was like, okay. So here it is, just so we can show it off. I'll zoom in a little bit. There's the card. There it is, 2022 Prism. And you can see in the background, if you look, there's the 1170 just over to the right side of it. So that is what it's sold for on eBay. Sorry, do you want to see a little closer? I can zoom in again.
Yeah.
Just 1 second.
Yeah, let me see.
Just 1 second. Sure. Just give me 1 second here and I'll zoom in for it for you. Bear with me a moment. There you go. So if you can see that there. It's a nice card, no doubt. I've got a couple of the numbered versions of this. It is technically her rookie year, so to speak. You know, that's cool. But $1,170. So that is testament to the power of WWE's brand and the power of Prism brand. These two things combined actually made it that people were willing to bid on this. 25 bids on it. It's not 1 or 2 bids. It's 25 bids. Pretty strong, right? I would consider that a pretty strong sale, yeah? Okay. So I started off by doing the comparison between the two characters just so that we were on the same page. Okay. So here, there's the gold PMG.
The 1 of 1.
The 1 of 1 gold PMG. So we got PMG. We've got 1 of 1. We've got all these different elements. It is graded. It's an 8, which is solid for a PMG. It's fine. I just put it in the holder because I wanted to, just for fun. But I picked that up. I bought this. This was $1,250. It's barely over the price of that one.
Right.
And if this went in open auction, I bet you I might be able to have gotten it cheaper.
I think there's a good chance you would have gotten it cheaper at auction. I think you're probably in the $700 to $900 range on that for auction. But she has
that
been
would put it in the range of this one. This one was bought in open auction, also a 1 of 1, and that was just under 800.
Okay. That
So that
does
tells you.
that to me is right where it should be. Um, I think, but she's a women's champion, right?
Yep.
She is the face of women's wrestling for AEW, in my opinion. And
And that will get her up to the level of a mid-tier developmental talent.
that is exactly where she goes on WWE with Panini, which is wild. But that's a testament to Panini and WWE
Brand power.
and
Yep.
right, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's why I thought that I was saving that one because I thought that was a fun comparison, and that's why I said this is a recent sale. I wanted to make sure I included that because this is not an old sale. Now, one other wrinkle about that PMG. So again, testament to the brand power. Now, this is maybe something that maybe is worth discussing a little bit because obviously I follow this because to me it's fascinating. I love the fact that I can kind of look at this market. It's completely weird in terms of how it works. Like I said, what I just described to you makes no sense. In a vacuum, makes no sense. Those two should not be close to each other. Like, why is it even that close? Brand power, we have to grant it. That's reality. Some of the other black prisms haven't gone for quite as much, but that one in particular, for whatever reason, the bidders decided they went for it. Who can say? Who knows why they decided to go nuts on it? But they paid for it, so it's a completed deal. But the price on the WWE ones have been strong. For Prism, the black Prisms have been very strong, and all that's been part of it. The brand power of the two companies has been huge. And I think that's where, unfortunately, the combination of the things have hurt the AEW side of it. But I'm on Facebook groups. I think you and I are in the same Facebook group where we look out for a lot of those things. I love kind of keeping an eye out to see if occasionally I've been able to do a couple of deals through this. So it's been fun. So it is an enjoyable challenge to find these things, but not enough of the boxes are getting open. I think, though, this becomes a self fulfilling prophecy. And there's two things that I've noticed that I think are very interesting. This one, now you can tell me, I don't know if you're familiar with this. Are you familiar with Adam Gelman?
No.
Okay, so Adam Gelman is someone who on social media very much promotes wrestling cards. He's very much into that. He's actually got a Patreon where he talks about wrestling cards quite a bit. And they had actually did an event at the National for wrestling cards. So I think it was called Main Event or whatever it was, something like that. And basically, it's just called Main Event Wrestling. And they've organized a couple events at the National in the last couple of years. And they worked with RBI Crew 7, who does a lot of wrestling cards and a lot of those folks, and even been able to work with CGC and with Panini. So he's friendly with some of the brands. They've been able to do some stuff. So all good there. But obviously, what they call it is they call it main event wrestling cards. That's what it's called. But playing into what I was talking to you about, it's called main event wrestling cards. Every single post, every single article, every single podcast, the only thing that ever gets mentioned or discussed is WWE. There is literally no other type of card in existence other than WWE. That is all that exists. All we talk about is Panini, which, by the way, obviously a stronger brand, the product's hot and all that. But it's like when you're only talking about that, can you really call it wrestling cards when no other cards exist other than WWE? I don't know about
Yeah.
that.
No. No. You have to acknowledge AEW. They might be, the little league compared to WWE, but AEW is significant enough to acknowledge it because what would, WCW to WWF, at one point in time, you could say WWF was destroying WCW and then suddenly they weren't. And, you know, we can't predict the future, but AEW is good enough to acknowledge in any type of wrestling forum, any type of wrestling conversation, especially with cards and Upper Deck. They're at least relevant. They might not be on that level of Panini or WWE, but they're
Mhm.
worth being in the conversation.
Well, that's why I found it so amusing. So the Gelman thing I actually understood because he collects Becky Lynch, so that's where his focus is, and that part of the reason that I decided to do the channel here and focus. I actually kind of do the opposite. I focus more on AEW, just being like, look, there's no coverage, so I may as well fill in some of the gap by offering some of the coverage that is otherwise ignored there. But his thing I actually kind of get because that's where his focus is. That's where he's got more expertise and more knowledge and more comfort level. And he talks with Panini folks all the time. So I get that part. But this is the one that killed me, the part that made me laugh. there's a Breakout Cards is a YouTube channel who does some very nice videos. I enjoy a lot of his stuff. He's actually gotten into the last couple of months doing like top wrestling card sales. Uh, Now, what happens is when he does his top wrestling card sales thing, and by the way, Gelman does the same thing. When they're talking about like top sales of the week or the month or whatever it is, they use Card Ladder as their source. Well, Card Ladder, so now Card Ladder is a price guide tool. It's net neutral. It should pretty much just cover whatever. That's the idea. It's supposed to just look up comps for stuff. Well, they've got a wrestling index, and in it is 82 wrestling all stars and WWE. That is all that is on there. And if you search, you can't find anything that's not WWE or 82 wrestling all stars. So when they're seeing these sales and they're finding all this stuff, they can't find it. So the reason why I thought it was funny, that I got a kick out of it, is that when I purchased that PMG, and they had been doing that for a couple of months, and I was sitting there like, okay, I've seen the prices on a lot of stuff. Some of that WWE stuff is going for thousands. Some of the Roman Reigns, Black Prisms, and some of that stuff, The Rock, there's been some crazy sales. Well, the month that I bought this, I was like, I wonder if it will even make it anywhere on that list. Nope. There was stuff that sold for less because all they see is what's on Card Ladder. And all that's on Card Ladder is WWE and 82 All-Stars. So it doesn't matter. I could have spent 10,000 for this and it wouldn't have made it on the list because
Nobody would have known.
but isn't that kind of funny? It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't exist. It's like it never even happened. That's
No.
why that's your difference in perception and brand power and marketing. That tells you a lot.
All right. And I've noticed this just kind of semi collecting Anna J, that people have, their specific player collecting,
Yep.
but you have some fans who are a little wilder with their wallets than other fans.
True.
And
Yeah. True.
and so I experienced this with Anna J because I thought, okay, I was getting that similar feeling with you where I thought I don't have any Britt Bakers I really want right now, and nothing's popping up that's on my save search. So,
Mhm.
you know, idle hands are the devil's workshop. So I'm sitting there bored, wanting to
Collect
just
you just said the magic word. Collectors who are bored or dangerous with PayPal balance, that ain't good. That ain't good.
no, no. So, I don't want to spend crazy money on MJF. I got a cool one or
Sure.
two, and so I'm good there. So, I'm starting to look at Anna J, and some of her cards were going for way higher than I ever expected because Anna
Sure.
J is not a champion. She's mid. She's got some potential, but she's not up there. And
I think for Anna Jay, I think it really comes down to she is a very attractive lady.
that's
I think
where,
that's the
well,
number one thing with that one.
yes, yes. And that's where those fans, I think that level of dedication kicks in because when
I
when
like
you
that you call it
have
dedication. I love it. Go on.
when you have those eyes for a person
Mhm.
and you're willing to do anything for them, you've dreamt about them, it becomes a fixation, an obsession,
Sure. Okay.
whatever it is.
Right.
You start to notice those eBay sold prices are a little bit higher than for, Top Flight or anybody else really. And I have noticed that that is a thing with female wrestlers specifically.
Oh yeah,
You
100%.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so when you're talking about, the 101 going for 1100, it makes me wonder, like, is there like this weird obsession that kind of elevates those prices a little bit more, like there is for Anna J? I don't know, probably,
Mhm.
but but it makes me think about how that level of dedication for the female wrestlers really can affect sold prices.
I think so. I think also like what we already talked about a little earlier. I do think the power of the Prism brand is big though. I think the fact that it was the Black Prism one of one, I think really because I can give you an example. Like I said, I do collect some of those JC Jane cards. Obviously, that one. I listen, guys. If I'm going to spend that much, it better be a Brit card. Like that's where we got to keep it. But I will say this. So that same year, that same design, I actually won another one of the Prism parallels from that year and that design, JC Jane. I actually purchased it earlier today. It was an auction. It was It's the one that's in the Chinese boxes. I think it's the lucky numbers or something. The parallel escapes me, but there is a very specific type of release that Panini does for the Asian market, and they've got some of the parallels on there, and those parallels are numbered to 8. So it's based on that whole thing with I think 8 is a lucky number, and that's kind of what plays into it. So that same card I showed you, the same image, the same year, the same everything. The version of it here I got in front of me. Lucky envelopes. That's what it's called. Lucky envelopes. So it's the lucky envelopes parallel, numbered to 8. Well, because it wasn't the black prism 1 of 1, I was able to purchase the JC Jane, same design that you just saw, numbered to 8 for $30.
Wow.
Big. I'm sitting there like, okay, I'll buy the out of 8 for $30. You can have the 1 of 1 for $1,170. Good,
Right.
cool story, bro. It's fine, sure. I'm okay. I'll accept this. I accept these terms. I can't have the 1 of 1. Fair enough. You can have
Right.
it, sir.
Number to 8 is pretty significant.
I think it's
That
pretty
that is,
solid. I was
yeah,
super happy. I thought it was a good. I thought it was a good pickup for me. I was like, I'll take it. $30, man. That sounds good.
yeah, yeah. $30 for something serial number to 8 is a really good purchase, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I'll take that. So there are still opportunities. I think though that kind of plays though to my point. I don't think it was necessarily the character. I do think that Black Prism 1 of 1 is like people got eyes for it because obviously Panini is going out as the licensee, so it's not like there's going to be a bunch more going forward. The in the most recent select though, it's Stephanie Vaquer and Julia selling for big monster numbers. Some of those cards, people are chasing after those ones. Those are the big ones. But again, WB brand power. And again, both of these ladies are technically in developmental. They're both really good, and they will be stars if promoted correctly when they get to the main roster. But for now, they're both in developmental, but they're selling for premium dollars. Again, and that's where our friends Tony Khan and our friends at Upper Deck, they both dropped the ball on this. They've both created this scenario where it's like, well, guys, that's the gap. That's the gap between the two of you.
Yeah. So, I came into AEW for metal because I'm a 90s sports collector. And
Sure.
so, I watched AEW, but I didn't collect any cards until metal. I found out that that was going to be released. And
Cool.
again, the PMGs, the jambalayas, those were things that resonate with me. Instant, instant love. So when I heard about Metal 2023, I got excited again, and I thought,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is something that I am going to invest in, like my time and energy, not
Sure.
money,
Okay.
but I'm going to
Sure.
invest my time and energy in this
Sure.
because
Yeah.
this is fun. This is fun to me. And so suddenly, no news. I'm wondering what's going on with metal. And then we get the photos and they drop that for us. And we get the possible release dates, and then it gets delayed. But I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
at the cards, and they're saying essential credentials is going to be in it. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
have more jambalayas and essential credentials. That's the name of my podcast. So I'm thinking,
I was about to say, they really are speaking to your 90s-ness right now. They're really
right?
speaking to you.
That's the name of my show. So I'm totally in. But then suddenly Upper Deck says, hey, we're gonna delay metal until maybe 2025. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just thinking, well, like, this is not conducive to an AEW collecting environment. If you're gonna create these huge gaps and you're delaying the things that people are so excited about, and we're getting a flagship, we're getting, a card with a tooth in the background, like, please
It
show
will
it. Yes.
never get old. It never dies. By the way, the problem with this, just so we're all on the same page, for folks that are not familiar, it's a subset, well, an insert called retouched. And the idea is, they tried to get cute with it and they tried to do some Photoshop work. See, the problem is, I didn't mind this, and I had this discussion with my buddies who don't collect this, but they understood the concept. But they thought it was stupid, and the whole thing. And look, I can't disagree with you. I'm not gonna lie. But the issue with it is that this is, I think, 1 in 720 packs. That's the problem. If
That
you
is
wanted
the
to
problem.
do this 1 in 30 packs or something and have this set as kind of a silly thing, is Still relatively easy to pull, and you can complete a set of these if you want. Okay, sure. But 1 in 720 packs is harder than one a case. I think it was 1 in 5 cases, I think is what it worked out to. 1 in 5 case hit, and this is what you. So, number one, it's very difficult for me to find as a collector. It's very difficult for me to find because I'm kind of a completionist with the Brit cards. So, you're making my life difficult. But then on top of everything, well, here's the thing. I think I bought this for like $80. So 1 in 5 case hit should not be under $100. Let's put it that way. For a popular character who has at least a fan base, it should not be. And honestly, I feel like that's appropriate. I really didn't feel like I should pay any more because honestly, I thought it was silly and I'm a fan.
Well, in my opinion, they're shooting themselves in the foot by making that card 1 in 720 packs because you're telling people, okay, we want you to buy the product, we want you to open the boxes, but this is potentially what you're going to get. And if you can buy a 107 70 20 pack card for $80, that is a red flag to me because in of Britt Baker, that is a red flag to me because
Sure.
that card should be 150, 300, 400. You know, those are the prices I expect for a card that is that hard to find. And again, I'm coming from the sports card world, but
Yeah.
170, 101 in 720 packs is a card that you have now told me this is the card to find. And when I see that card, I say, this is not the card to find. I would
Mm-hmm.
rather have the Britt Baker Queen of Spades or a lenticular jumping off the top rope card. I would much rather have that. And they did the same thing with metal, which really upset me, is their competitive advantage card.
Oh, I'm glad you brought it up. I literally had it in my hand as you said the words.
So when I first saw that card, I thought this is going to be acetate or there's something that I'm missing. I'm missing something from this scan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm missing something. So I bought the card for, I don't know, $80, $100, and I got it. And I kind of felt duped. I kind of felt like I had been, somebody had sold me, some ice on a snowy day. And I was just thinking, man, what is going on here?
We were
There's,
having an Instagram. We had an Instagram chat about this. We were actually
yeah,
because we remember we had this discussion. But here's the thing. I like grabbing some of these things. I like grabbing duplicates of some of these. I showed you before we started recording some of the cards that I've had. The good news is if I encounter some other Brit folks, like if there's anything in here that you might be of interest to you, I'm happy to pass it along. But for me, if I felt like it's too cheap and it's a decent enough card, I'll grab a second copy. I don't care. It's to keep me entertained at this point. Like some of them, it's just to keep me amused. That's literally the only reason I'll grab another copy. I actually got another copy on ComC a couple of days ago of another competitive advantage. I paid $23.
I honestly think I've seen a sold sale for $7 for that card.
Maybe,
I,
maybe it's bad. I might have overpaid, but it was cheaper than my first one. I dollar cost average down.
yeah, I think I bought the first one. I might have fought you for it,
Maybe.
but I think I did. I had the first or second one, and when I got it in hand, man, I
And
could
that was
not.
1 in 600 packs, wasn't it? 1 in 600,
Yeah, it
something like
was
that.
it was up there. It was either 3 or 600. I think it was 680 or something like that. But
And metal has less than 20 packs per box, so it was
yeah,
actually in relative terms, that's a pretty tough pull if you're talking about in comparison to boxes.
right. And I got that card, and it was not acetate. It had nothing. It was just a plain insert that I was very disappointed in. And at that point, that was when I said, I'm going back to jambalaya. I'm going back to the PMGs because this was a waste of my time, and I'm very upset about it. And I don't know what their thoughts are on this. Like, why would you make such a hard card to pull so bland and so just lacking?
Well, you know what's funny? You guys, I know you guys spend a lot of time talking '90s on the essential credentials, and I want to play off of this into another thought, kind of what we were talking about. But I kind of dubbed this the Pacific problem. And you may appreciate this because there were some instances, and not all cases, just so we're clear, this isn't all the time, but there would be a few cases where there would be a couple of inserts that would be perplexingly hard, and you would look at them and go, why? Can you give me any justification for why this card is this difficult and looks this generic? This looks like it should be one in 4 packs. And you're telling me it's one in 300 packs, one in 500 packs, or whatever. And I actually found some examples when I was talking to my buddies about it. We did a podcast episode separate on the Sports Card channel where I talked about this exact thing. And I called it, I dubbed it the Pacific problem. Because they used to do this once in a blue moon. They would have something inexplicable, very difficult card to pull. And you just sit there and look at it. But then you'd have another card that is relatively easy to pull and go, that's way cooler than that one. That doesn't make
Right.
any. It's like you guys did in reverse. That one should have been the tough one, and that one should have been the easy one, and you went the other way.
I, I mean, I just think there's got to be some rationality. Somebody like just at the end of the put me at the end of the upper deck line of decision making, and they say, "Okay, Greg, this is what we're thinking. What do you think?" And I'll look at it and say, "No, no, no."
You jump in front of the jump in front of the guys before they go to the printing machine. You're like, no, do it, stop.
Yeah, yeah. You just need a few average Joes to say, "Does this make sense? Is this a good idea? Would you want this?" And I would say no.
So
But
you're saying you're
that,
rejecting the Photoshop tooth card, is what you're saying.
yes, I'm not rejecting it as a 1 in 4 pack card. I will say fun. That's fun. You got to have something, right? You got to have
Sure.
something to pull. That's fun. Let's have a fun set, a little variation fun set. But when you're telling me this is the end all be all, no, I'm out. Nope,
Fair
don't
enough.
want
Fair
it.
enough. So again, so I want to make sure everybody's clear on this. These are collector conversations that a bunch of us have over Instagram. Like that's why I wanted to share it with people. And this isn't the first time I've had this kind of conversation in person either. At the expo, Reinhard Cards, who is on a Facebook group that we're on, and is a good and is one of the admins as well. And he's a great contributor and does some and has done some breaks and everything. I was explaining though to Greg that I've participated in some of his flagship, brand new flagship breaks, and I bought the Brit Spot, the last couple of them, and that's 2 cases worth of those, and I've opened 8 boxes myself. And the collation has been so wonky that I haven't even gotten the gold version. And it's like I almost don't like it'll appear on ComC at some point for like 40 cents and I'll buy it, whatever. But that's not the point. The point is like with a couple of cases worth of boxes, guys, it should be one in there for me. Like, give me a break here. Um, and it just there have been some nice cards in there. There's nothing wrong with the cards that have been pulled. But it's just like 2 cases is 24 boxes. That's a lot of boxes and a lot of packs. You'd think it tells me what the print run is, or at least what I can theorize what the print run is, because, well, how about a numbered card? There's a couple of different numbered variants that could be in there. They don't have to be like the craziest low numbered stuff, but like, what about them? And in case example, what we were talking about a little earlier, how much of the stuff is actually getting cracked when I haven't seen the high gloss for this year yet? I haven't seen anything except the base autograph. I've seen a handful of the base autograph. I own one because I bought it. But that's a situation where I'm going to be more aggressive. I'm going to buy the one that becomes available because I'm still waiting to see the second or the third. But none of the numbered versions. The last couple of years, since the beginning, I've gotten the version out of 25 and the version out of 5. I've gotten those. But this year, I haven't even seen any of the numbered ones. Autographs are 2 per case, and I think it's British more short printed as well. But something like so, if flagship, how much is getting opened if I'm not seeing any of? I'm not seeing them in the Facebook group. Not even folks like not for sale, not for trade. Like I'm just not seeing it.
Right.
So, yeah, at least give me a chance to make you an offer. Allow me to to make an offer, but I have to see it first to even have a chance to do that. I'm not seeing it. It's been
Yeah.
interesting.
That's what I've been, for the photo variation. I thought I'll get the Britt Baker, and the Anna J, maybe the MJF, but I have not even seen the Britt Baker photo variation for this year. So I don't know what that looks like. And I thought I also want the clear cut, the acetate. I wanted to get the clear cut for
Hmm.
Britt Baker, and I have not even seen that, and that makes me worried that people are
I
just
have
not.
good news. I bought one of those. When I get it in
Okay,
hand, I will be able to confirm for you it is real.
okay, good, thank you, because I can't find it, and I don't know if anybody has found it. It worries me. That kind of stuff worries me because that means it's not being opened in my as much in my mind that I thought it would be. Um,
Mm.
I, I'm assuming people are just opening packs left and right, but maybe they're not because I'm not seeing these cards. And I know people. It's available at Target and Walmart, but are they not putting that stuff in the Target the retail blasters as much? I don't know. Is it only in hobby and people aren't buying hobby? I don't know. Like I don't know enough about who's opening what and how often it's being opened, but I know that that is a correlation with cars being posted on eBay. And when cars are not being posted on eBay, then that means something is going on. Something's happening.
Hmm. For sure. Listen, at least count your lucky stars. I've had words with people at Upper Deck. All I'm saying is I've had words where we're not even getting the blasters half the time. Like a couple of the different years, we haven't even gotten the blasters for flagship ever. There's a couple of those years where we got zero blasters. So there is none in this part of the country. Period. End of story. Regardless, I told them, "Can you mule them over? Can you pass it along contraband? Can I get some blasters, guys? Give me a break. Cut me a little bit of a break here. Help me out." I do
Yeah.
think EPAC might be messing up things as well. That's a worry of mine, because I said it as a joke. Although I did kind of freak out one of my buddies at Upper Deck, because when Metal went to EPAC, I'll usually buy a couple of packs just for fun. I'll open a couple of packs. So when Metal came out on EPAC, I said, "All right, I'm not. I've already opened like 8 boxes of this. I'm not gonna go crazy on EPAC because God no, I'm not doing this to myself." But I said, "All right, I'll buy 4 or 5 packs." So I grab 4 or 5 packs. That's it, just 4 or 5 packs of Metal. I open them up. I get an Adam Cole Gold PMG. And the first thing I do is I take a picture of the thing, and I just send a picture, and I say, "Hey, good job! I'm glad you finally pressed the button. About time you guys rigged this in my favor. Good job." He goes, "No, we didn't rig it." Hey, listen, I just appreciate that you guys figured out that you needed to hook a guy up here. Thank you, I appreciate it. But the point is, that's a gold PMG, and that came in the E-Pack. That was not in the boxes. So I sit here and I open 8 boxes, and I can barely get anything. I open five
Mhm.
packs of E-Pack, and I nail a gold PMG.
So that makes me think what, so I can buy a box on eBay for retail price. It comes out day one. I can buy the box. It is $119. And then 2 weeks later, it's $99. And then 2 weeks later, it's 90, and so on and so on and so on. And so I started buying metal for $65 a box, $70 a box, $80, somewhere around there. I started buying
Sure.
a few metal boxes because
Yeah.
that's worth it. I love metal. I want to open metal. So at that price point, I'm in. But when you go to EPAC, you don't get it for $65 a box. You
No, you
don't.
don't.
It's
Yeah. That's why I
it's
only grabbed a handful of packs. That was why
right.
I literally was like, "I'll take a handful." But when I pulled that card, I died of laughter. It was just hysterically funny to me. I was able to sell it on ComStay, I think, for $700 or something, whatever it was. It was pretty good. Like it was a pretty good score and everything. It was great. But kind of testament to what you're talking about, obviously, that you like metal that much. Um, I actually bought a Brit card from England, and the gentleman shipped it very well, packaged it beautifully, great job, all good. Sent me the card, and inside included some bonus cards, a couple of AEW cards, because obviously saw that that's what I bought, so threw in some bonus AEW cards. One of the bonus toss-in cards was a Matt Hardy red PMG.
Wow.
It was a toss-in. That was a throw-in. The filler, just to keep the bundle.
Yeah.
I'm like, what does that tell you?
That
That's a message. And it
that
wasn't
is.
the card that I bought wasn't like a $500 card. It wasn't like this crazy
Mm.
expensive card that you thought. I was like, guys, you're sending a really bad message with this. It's like, please, sir, take this, Matt Hardy. Take it away.
That I would have never expected you to say a red PMG.
That's what
That
came. That's what came in the box.
I've seen quite a few disappointing fillers in my life, and that. I would have never put that in the realm of fillers for me.
Well, listen, I hope that I hope that whoever the powers that be at Upper Deck can to take pride in knowing that they were that Matt Hardy Red PMG was worthy to be a toss in inside of a lot with some other stuff. I thought it was the most hilarious thing I had ever seen when I saw it. I was sitting there like, is this a mistake? So I waited a couple of days just to see, and he never contacted me. I was like, well, I guess it's not a mistake.
No,
Nope. At this
no.
point, you
He's
just
like,
threw it in there. Like it's just what? I'm not a Matt Hardy fan. I liked Edge. There you go. So I just thought it was hysterical. I thought I would share that story. I thought it would be amusing.
yeah.
Uh,
So I
but
was just gonna say on EPAC, I when metal first dropped on EPAC, I noticed that people were posting a lot of bigger hits,
sure.
and that might go into where you were talking about correlation, where
Mhm.
things seemed weird and EPAC had them. I don't know if it benefits them on some level. Is that conspiracy theory maybe? Now I'm going down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories about EPAC, but I did see quite a few green, red,
Mhm.
gold being produced from EPACs, and it's a weird thing. I don't know if what the rhyme or reason, or if it's just horrible correlation. I don't know, but I did notice that EPAC had a lot of good metal hits.
Yeah, for sure. But look, just so that we're all on the same page, the I can tell you what's supposed to happen. What's supposed to happen because again, I do communicate regularly with the folks that are involved in it. It's supposed to be that a certain allocation of the hits are supposed to be allocated for pack. It's not supposed to be like we're holding back all the good stuff. It's supposed to be this amount goes in the regular boxes. The bulk should be going in the regular boxes. The majority are supposed to go there. And then a segment of it is supposed to be held back because it literally goes to the ComC warehouse. That's who does the processing and the fulfillment for them. So those cards go over there, and that's how EPAC is done. But the conspiracy theory always comes in because we get this small sample size, and it feels like so many big hits and wind up on EPAC. And I've gotten so many nice cards that started life on EPAC and either wound up on ComC or I did the deal where they were still on EPAC. And at a certain point, it's like, well, guys, and maybe you need to turn the ratio down and leave a couple of more hits in the physical boxes because it feels like I'm opening a ton of physical boxes. Again, feeling. I'm not using numerical factor, but it feels like I'm opening a lot of boxes and coming up empty, and then I'll open just a little bit on EPAC here and there once in a while. Allure was really good for me on this. I pulled an MJF purple out of 10 autograph on EPAC. I'm not opening
Uh,
boxes and boxes and boxes. That one did very well for me. I got a Jade Cargill purple out of 10. I got a CM Punk 10. I've pulled some great cards. Now I've also pulled some really nice cards on the physical boxes as well. But I also opened about 2 cases of it. So you'd think, but I did very well. I pulled a bunch of Golden Treasure one of ones out of my physical boxes. So I did well in both. Allure was in general was very good to me. That's why it's my favorite product of the ones they've released. Obviously, Metal is a great one with the PMGs, but Allure was really good to me. I did very well with that and pulled some really cool cards. Got to trade some to some friends, sell a few to some folks that were able to enjoy them, had a good time with them, and then made my money back in a lot of it and was able then to get some cards that I wanted. Win, win, win. And I got to open some boxes, which was fun. So
right.
all good. But that's not the case every time. And Allure has been pushed back to your point from earlier. So that's a product I'm interested in. Metal is one you're interested in, and we're both waiting until at least 2025. And
At least,
that's sad. That's a sad scene. We're sitting here going like, guys, I'd love to open some more Allure. I really liked Allure. It was a lot of fun.
yeah,
Or Metal in your case, like, and we're being denied. It's not fun.
yeah. No, I want essential credentials Britt Baker more than anything right now.
That'd be amazing.
And yeah, I will see it in 2026, 2025. I don't
Oh, the
know.
bidding war shall be epic, Greg. To battle, to battle. It'll be
Well,
glorious.
if it follows what baseball and all the other sports do, we're going to have a future and we're going to have a now. And so, which one is the rare one, which one is going to be the 99, and then which one is the one,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
don't know if they're going to follow that, but I look forward to it. And I am definitely going to be in a bidding war for one of those Britt Baker essential credentials. Um,
I look forward
but
to unleashing the hounds of war. It shall be glorious. Truly shall.
I want to really quick just mention, the one of the things I'm thinking about with e-packs
Hmm.
is you're buying just, a few packs here and there,
Yeah.
but when you buy a box of AEW metal flagship, whatever you're
Mhm.
buying, you got your box, you got your set amount of packs. So theoretically, you open your packs and one of them has the box hit, right?
Mhm.
So you could your second pack could be the box hit, and then okay, now I've got my box hit. I'm going to open the rest of the 18, 20 packs,
Mhm.
and you don't get it. You don't get anything, but you've come to that conclusion that you've already got your box hit, so you don't really expect it. You didn't get it. No disappointment there. But with e-pack, you buy a pack. 2 minutes later you buy a pack. You could theoretically be getting those box hits, right? Is that not what could be happening is you could theoretically be getting people's box hits on every e-pack that you buy because
It's
you're
supposed to, yeah,
not
it's supposed to be like a randomization. So at the box level, the odds are playing into what a box is. On
right,
the individual pack level, in theory, again, in theory, I'm not the one behind the algorithm, but in theory, it's like randomizing the packs. It's like the whole
right.
universe of packs is random, and you could get base, or you could get like a pretty standard parallel or something, or you could open 5 packs and pull a gold PMG.
Yeah, you could open 5 packs and pull 5 gold PMGs, and that is almost absolutely impossible with one box, right?
True.
And so I think that's where the e-pack stuff comes in, where maybe it's just the luck, everybody's got the luck of the Irish here, and they're just pulling hits after hits. Um,
So what you're
like,
saying is that I need to tell them to step up the conspiracy so I can go 5 for 5 next time. I need to step
yes,
it up. Like we can do better. This is good, but we can do better.
can do better, can do better.
Amazing. Amazing. So, real quick, I don't want to keep you too long. One more thing before we go. The next product that's supposed to come out is Upper Deck Black Diamond. You didn't know too much about it, but just high level, I'll quickly remind everybody and tell everybody just so we're on the same page. It's one box. It's basically 6 or 7 cards. I forget what it is. You're getting an autograph. You're getting a Squizzy card. You're getting a bunch of stuff. It's a very high end brand. Available in hockey. If you're ever curious what that looks like, just check out some breaks at hockey. You'll understand. It's the same kind of configuration, same type of deal. There are going to be some nice looking cards in it, but there are sticker autos. That's one thing. Second thing is, again, we're starting off with a really high price point. We're looking probably somewhere in the neighborhood of close to 400 Canadian, probably 300 US, somewhere in that neighborhood. But now, if you're talking like 6 cards, 300 US is like $50 a card. So it's like that what we talked about earlier about the price sensitivity. So we only touched on it here and there along the course of our conversation, but the wrestling card collectors are very price sensitive. This is the way I would describe it. There are people that will spend big money for certain cards, but the amount of people is a very small group of people. We did our comparison to sports card world where we said, like, for us, in our player collections, we may have had to shell out some money for some of these cards over the years, nicer cards, not just any regular card. So it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. But in this, you know, being like a big fish in a small pond here, so to speak, it allows us to actually be able to push more weight around relative to the size of the marketplace, which is smaller. But now we're talking about a product. If I can't get people to spend $200 or $300 for a really nice card, how about 300 for a pack?
That is a dangerous game that they're playing, and I think myself, I'm not going to open that. I'm going to wait to see what's on eBay because the thought of getting a Danhausen or like a Ethan
Hey,
Page.
I know a guy who's a big Danhausen fan. He bought a Golden Treasures one of one Danhausen from me. We will not besmirch the man's good name.
The thought of that being my hit, man, I just couldn't fathom it. I will be an aftermarket singles buyer for anything Black Diamond if I decide to buy something Black Diamond because there is no way I would ever fathom spending that amount of money for 6 or 7 cards of AEW. I just couldn't do it.
So two things to leave us on, two quick things. Number one, Greg, come on. You look like a Serpentico guy to me. He's on the checklist. So there's a Serpentico with your name on it if you play that dangerous game. I can see it. I can envision it from here. Serpentico. Say it with me. All right. Second thing, real quick. My only concern, so the only reason I brought it up at the tail end, and maybe we can have a follow up conversation after it comes out. We get a chance to observe a little bit. It might be a worthwhile follow up conversation, and I'll have it with some other collectors as well. My concern is that because it is so expensive and all the challenges we just talked about, the brand issues, the delays, all these, and every one of these delays, we didn't even explain it this way, but all of these delays are like throwing cold water on the hype. Like any excitement that we might have had, like the longer you make us wait and wait and wait, it throws cold water on it. Like, and we want these cool cards, and we can't even bid for them because we're trying to find diversions because we're getting bored waiting for these singles to show up. So my concern is because the product is so expensive, I don't even know if group breakers are going to be able to come up with the right formula to get the boxes opened. So if the boxes don't get opened, where are the singles supposed to come from? That's my concern. That's my bigger worry. Even if you want to play the singles game, somebody's got to bite the bullet and open the boxes. Who is going to be that person?
Tony Khan.
We need TK to do us a solid and open some boxes, open some cases, Tony.
I think I think it's got to be Tony at first, and then we'll see what's out there, and then we'll jump on board for maybe a group break or two. But again, I don't know. They're gonna have Britt Baker is $100, MJF is $300. Like it's gonna be something that people are find absurd for group breaks. I feel like.
For 6 cards, even if you made it $200 or $300, it would be like the likelihood is you're going to get nothing. You're going to get skunked on so many of those names. Like you can't do names; it's impossible. You got to do a hits break. I think that's the only way you can do the hits. You've basically got to do it that way. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
names are not
sense.
going to work unless you really want that Serpentico spot. In which case, I'm sure we can get that sold to you. Like it's there, man. It's ready.
$2. I'll do $2.
There you go. All right. So before we go, real quick, before I send you off on your way, can you do me a favor? I will include links in the description. By the way, I appreciate you chatting with me. It was a great conversation. I enjoyed it very much. Do you want to quickly promote? I know you've got your channel. We got Essential Credentials, but is there anything else you want to promote as far as that? I'll include links in the description, but do you want to name them out?
No, just I appreciate the shout out. I very much enjoyed having a AEW conversation with you. This is my first AEW podcast episode, so I do appreciate you breaking my cherry on that one because I have not come on YouTube to talk AEW officially. Just bits and pieces in my Essential Credentials show, but I do appreciate you mentioning the Essential Credentials. That is me, Matt, and Alan's flagship podcast. And thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. And since Matt is now in a place that may be tangentially related to this, I think you should just spend an entire episode only talking AEW while he stares at the screen blankly. I think that would be tremendous.
Maybe I can make that happen because I would love for him to not be able to put any input on the AEW that I am so up and down about at any moment.
Amazing, amazing. But yes, I will include a link in the description to those for you folks to check it out. Also to his Instagram, TimSalmonCollector. Again, the only Angels outfielder with a fish last name that we acknowledge. That's it. There are no others. But no, a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you. And this is the first one of these. I'm hoping to do some more of these down the road. Look, if you're a big AEW card fan and you want to chat on some of this stuff, I would love to do some of these here and there where I can. I'm trying to provide a little bit of the AEW content because we're being ignored, Greg. We're being
Yeah,
ignored by the media. They don't even
yeah.
acknowledge us. Forget Roman Reigns. Acknowledge us. At least
We're
once in a
not even
while.
on we're not even on card ladder.
Nothing. We got nothing, man. All right, folks. So I hope you enjoyed. Leave any comments. Like if you like the video, and more videos will be coming up for especially when Upper Deck Black Diamond happens. I am gonna bite the bullet for y'all. I will open one box, and my prediction, like Clubber Lang once said, pain. All right, that's it. Have yourselves a good one. Thanks for joining us.